Hi there, it's Nicola from Mountain Training. This is the fourth Social Media Monday webinar, and today's webinar is about creating content for success. I don't think there are heaps of people joining me this afternoon based on the number of out-of-office replies I got to an all-provider email I sent earlier today, but never mind. I will crack on anyway. As per usual, if you've got any questions or anything, feel free to just unmute your microphone if you've got a microphone, or if not, just use the chat box to ask a question, and I can either address that as we go along, or you can wait until the end, whichever you'd rather. Super. So getting straight into it then. So just to cover a little bit of jargon first before we carry on, because I didn't cover all of this in the jargon webinar that was one of the earlier ones. So post reach, I'm going to talk a bit about that as the webinar goes on. So post reach is the number of people who've seen your post, and they can do that in two ways, either through organic reach, which is the number of people who've seen a post on your newsfeed that you have posted on your page, and the other way is through paid reach. So that's the number of people who've seen a post on your page but that you paid to advertise, so that you either promoted it or you boosted it or you used Facebook ads. So that counts as paid reach because you paid for that person to be able to see it. There's also engagement. So on Facebook in particular, that's all about likes, reactions, comments, link clicks and shares. And the algorithm. So I'll be talking a fair bit about that during the first part of this webinar. So an algorithm is a process or a set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations. And as far as social media platforms are concerned, the algorithm is kind of evolving. So every year, every couple of years, they'll take a look at it, they'll see how the platform is evolving, and they will amend the algorithm to match that. And then finally, pain points. So pain points are specific problems that your customers are experiencing, and it might be that you can address those pain points in order to attract them to your business. The title of the webinar is Creating Content for Success, so it's fairly important that we define what success is. So I've made some assumptions to start with. Two assumptions. One is that you're interested in brand awareness, so more people knowing about your business, and the other is that you want people to come on your courses, or else I'm assuming you wouldn't be here. So the way that we can measure those things on social media is through page likes and followers, through reach, as I've explained, through engagement rate, and also through website referrals. So interestingly, I just had a look at our analytics this morning for our website, for the Mountain Training website, and since the beginning of this year, 42% of people that have gone through a different website to get to our website have come from Facebook, and 27% have come from Tadar. So given that Tadar is the platform that all of our candidates use to log things, we're still getting way more people coming through Facebook to our website. And that doesn't account for all of the traffic that's come straight to our website, so people that may already have the page bookmarked or anything, but still people that have come through a secondary website, 42% have come from Facebook, which is pretty massive. And I'll cover a fair bit more in the final webinar of this series about how to find all of those stats. But on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter, actually, they're all called insights. So somewhere on your account, you will have an insights button or tab. So starting with the Facebook algorithm then. So this is a quote from Facebook. Facebook was built to bring people closer together and build relationships. One of the ways we do this is by connecting people to meaningful posts from their friends and family in newsfeed. Note, they're not interested in businesses. They're interested in family and friends and bringing them together. That doesn't mean they don't show people posts from pages. It's just that their priority at the moment is about friends and family. So the Facebook algorithm is based on 4 factors. So the inventory of all posts available to display. So all the possible posts that they could show to you, for example, based on the friends that you've got and all the things they've posted recently, the pages that you follow, all this stuff that they could show to you. They can't show you at all, so they have to choose what to show you. So they start off with a big list of all possible things. The second are signals that tell Facebook what each post is. So it uses machine learning and various other tools to scan the post to work out what it is. And this is something that you can control, because you want to signal to Facebook that your post is meaningful and relevant to your target audience. The next is predictions. So again, they use what's called machine learning to try to guess how likely you are to engage and react with engage with or react to a particular post. So they're kind of guessing. based on your previous behavior. And then finally, that gives them a score, and then the score defines what gets showed in what order on Facebook. So pages in the algorithm then, so how do those two things fit together? So Facebook have said that page posts that generate conversation between people will show higher in newsfeed. For example, live videos often lead to discussion among viewers on Facebook. In fact, live videos on average get 6 times as many interactions as regular videos. Many creators who post videos on Facebook prompt discussion among their followers, as do posts from celebrities. And something else they said later in this same article is that using engagement bait to goad people into commenting on posts is not a meaningful interaction, and we will continue to demote these posts in newsfeed. So effectively the way in which you write your post should compel people to tag their friends or comment or whatever without you having to say, please comment if. So you've got to find different ways of encouraging people to do that, and a lot of that will come naturally through the strength of your post. So this is just a little flowchart, so you can have a little bit of a think about how things show to your fans and followers. Obviously, if somebody visits your page, then that's different. They'll see all of the things that you've posted if they scroll down. But what we're talking about here is how things show on people's news feeds. So if people aren't regularly visiting your page on Facebook, they're only going to see what Facebook decides to show them in the news feed, and that has to go through the algorithm. So Instagram then, so Instagram is owned by Facebook, so broadly speaking it's similar, but because the platform is image-based, images with captions, it is slightly different. So Instagram have said people come to Instagram to be with their close friends. They stay to be inspired by art, fashion, sports and entertainment, as well as the people behind those crafts. Enabling expression and fostering those connections are at the heart of Instagram. So Instagram's algorithm is based on 3 factors: relationship, interest, and timeliness. So relationship is the people you interact with a lot. So Instagram knows whose posts you comment on frequently, whose you like, if they like yours as well. It kind of knows who your friends are, and it knows which brands you follow regularly. So it kind of tracks that relationship, and it tries to show you those things first. Also interest, so similar to Facebook's sort of signals and predictions. So rather than just the who you're interacting with, which is the relationship bit, the interest is the kind of what. So if you're mostly interested in photos of landscapes, for example, or photos of cute puppies, Instagram knows that because it knows what's in those photos. So it will try to limit what you're seeing based on those things. And then the third is timeliness. So newer posts are always shown first. Interestingly, on Facebook, I'm still seeing personally posts from the Netball World Cup, which finished 2 weeks ago, because while it was on, I was quite engaged with it all. And now 2 weeks later, I'm still seeing posts in my newsfeed about the Netball World Cup, one of which was about the opening ceremony. So timeliness is not a thing on Facebook as such, but it is really important on Instagram as it is on Twitter. So moving on to Twitter, according to Twitter's website, Twitter is what's happening in the world and what people are talking about right now. And so with that in mind, recency is top of the tree. So factors, that decide what it shows to you. So newer tweets, generally speaking, are shown first. There's also engagement. So it has a look at how popular that tweet has been so far to decide where it, how high up it'll show it. It also takes media type into account. So is it just text, or is it an image? Is it a video? And again, in the similar way that Instagram learns what you like, Twitter learns what you like. And if you mostly interact with photos, it will try to show you more photos, etc. And then there's kind of a handful of other things. So your location, how long you've been away from the platform. So if you haven't opened Twitter for a couple of weeks and then you open it again, obviously it's got loads of things that it could show you. So it has various different streams to help you catch up on what you've missed. So there's something called top tweets, and then there's also latest tweets. So you can decide whether you want to see the latest things coming in as they happen, or if you want to allow the algorithm to kind of dictate a little bit more what you're seeing based on what's most popular. So that's how Twitter works. So then that kind of leaves us with a question, which is which comes first? Do you get your posts right first, or do you try and attract your followers first? And I would say that the first thing you want to do is to get your target audience to your page. But obviously you can't do that without writing posts that are aimed at them. So a good quote I found while I was doing a bit of research for this is that random fans are useless. They don't interact with your posts and they make your stats look bad. So essentially, focusing purely on the number of people that like your page on Facebook or that follow you on Instagram or Twitter is not the be all and end all, because all of those people are unlikely to be engaged with what you're doing. You want to attract people that are going to engage, that are going to speak to you, that are going to comment on your posts, that are going to retweet you maybe, or that will, you know, engage in a bit of interaction. That's what you're wanting. Just having 30,000 followers is meaningless if most of them don't ever engage with you. So with that in mind, make sure you understand your brand and your unique selling point. So going back to the very first webinar that I did was about identifying those two things. Write every post as if you're talking to at least one of your personas. So you should know who your target audience is, and you might have turned them into a little bit of a caricature. So every time you write a post, imagine that you're talking to at least one of those people. Use photos and or videos often. Think about how you talk about yourself or your company. Some people use I, some people use we. It doesn't matter as long as you're fairly consistent, so that people start to get a picture of who you are. And also 80% roughly of your posts should be social content, i.e. they're not overtly promotional. It's not come and look at the courses we've got. It's not we've got a course running next week, it's this much. It's all the other stuff. And all the other stuff, here's a bit of an example. So some social post ideas. So look at what we've been doing type posts. So this was something I posted last week after our weekend at the Women's Trad Fest. Then you've got look at where we are. So Alan Helwood, whose company is called Climb When You're Ready, posted a short video of the absolutely horrendous weather he experienced last week. This is me or this is somebody else. So we quite like to profile people that have our qualifications, because it allows people to associate with them or to connect. So they think, oh, you know, I'm a little bit like that person, maybe I should do that. So profiles of other people or of yourself can be a good thing to do. Did you know this was going on? So kind of current affairs things. So there's a Mountains for the Mind initiative that Trail Magazine are running at the minute. It's got a really popular Facebook group, so we shared that. This made me laugh, smile, angry. So other things that you've seen, like cardboard tents, the idea that somebody would take that on a mountain leader course amused us. So we posted about that. Did you know this fact? So people like facts, even in this world of misinformation. People love a good fact. This came out back in early June about the limit of human endurance. That was really popular. People really enjoyed that because there was a whole load of science that sat behind it, and it was just something a little bit different. And then finally, something that's topical or timely. So the World Cup, the World Championships that started recently, the BMC posted about that. So that's kind of right of the moment, you know, it's happening right now. So for Facebook, that's a big whole list of things that could work, and the majority of those would work on Twitter as well, and Instagram for that matter. You just need to find the right images to go with it, and that's just a selection of ideas. So if you're thinking, okay, well, how on earth do I post on social media as a business? Try to not think of yourself as a business. Try to think of yourself as a person and or a brand that believes in things, and so post about things that interest you. That's the best advice I would give. So then once you've got your 80% social posts, you're then allowed roughly 20% or so that are promotional. So through these posts, you're mainly wanting to appeal to people's motivation and also possibly helping them with their pain points. So we talked about motivation with regards to the Getting Active Outdoors research. So that was in the first webinar. But mainly what you're thinking about here is why they might consider coming on a course, and what might they be able to do as a result of coming on your course. So you're really trying to tap into their motivation for thinking about coming. So for example, we occasionally do this. So this was a whole load of photos of people smiling, having fun rock climbing, to do a bit of a promo for Rock Skills, sort of with a bit of a family focus as well, because it was just sort of getting towards the start of the summer holidays. This is another post from JB Mountain Skills. So thinking about the pain points, in amongst this post, he's talking about rock climbing instructor courses. He said they're chilled, you know, so he's setting himself out as somebody whose courses are pretty relaxed. You know, it's not super formal, it's not really stressful, even the assessments, it's just chilled. So he's appealing to people who might be worried, who might have confidence issues, and who generally just want to have fun with some super psyched climbers, because that's who he's saying run his courses. So he's already there sort of appealing to a certain certain target audience. So have a think about who your audience is and what you might want to say that would attract them. So campaign ideas then. So this was just me sort of trying to stick a load of ideas down to maybe help you get started. So campaigns are things that you could run, that you could plan in advance a little bit, and you could run over a period of time. So it could be over a period of weeks or over a period of days. And they just help you know exactly what it is you're going to post. So an example might be Testimonial Tuesday. You can tell that I like alliteration, but it could be any other day of the week. And it's basically the idea that every Tuesday you would share a quote from one of your customers, from some feedback you've had. And ideally you'd include an image of the person on the course, if you're lucky enough to have that. And if not, some kind of landscape or shot that gives the quote some context. Because people always like to hear what other people have thought. You know, TripAdvisor is a really popular website for a reason, because people love to hear what other people thought about things. So if you're occasionally sharing people's thoughts and kind of mini reviews, that's likely to go down pretty well. Something else could be a daily snapshot. So you could do one a day, every day for a week. At some point in the day, when you know you've got a busy week of courses coming up, you might just do a quick sort of 30-second video every day, and you could either put that on your story if you're using Instagram, or you could put it straight onto Facebook, either onto Facebook stories or onto your page, just as a way of kind of sticking a whole load of content out there when you know you're busy, so you know it's going to be good quality. Another thing you could do, you could kind of set up a series of posts that you could arrange in advance. So it could be every day for a week you would post about your favorite mountains. So you might pick 7 mountains or 5 mountains or however many days you want to do it for. You'd have a picture, you'd have a little blurb that you could write in advance. So you could spend, I don't know, a couple of hours one evening collecting a whole load of photos together, writing a really short blurb about each one, and then and you could even schedule it in advance there and then, or it just means that each day when you come to do it, you've got the photo, you've got the blurb, out it goes. I would refer to that as a campaign. Something else could be a bit of a did you know, so sort of regularly sharing facts with people. But campaigns generally, well, they are things that you've thought about in advance. So you've either half prepared the content or you've got it all ready to go, but it just can ease the pressure a little bit in when you're sort of thinking, you know, I'd really like to be posting on Instagram every day, or, you know, 3 times a day. Then if you're not regularly taking photos and always out there running courses, then you're not always going to be generating the content that you want to post. So creating a bit of a campaign that stockpiles a load of stuff and that you've thought about in advance can be a really good way of making sure that there's always something going out there. So that's all content for social media. So website content is a bit different. So I think I've mentioned in the past that social media platforms like people to stay on the platform. So if you're posting a link onto social media that's going to take them away from that site, then it has to be good. It's got to be something that somebody's go away, read, and then they might come back and they'll either like it or they'll comment to it or they'll do something. But Facebook and Twitter especially want people on the platform. Instagram doesn't even let you put external links into your photo captions. You can only put them in your bio. So I haven't included that logo here because we're mainly talking about Facebook and Twitter. So for website content then, these are pages on your website that you can put together that you can then share the links on social media. So I've said here, remember the pain points, because you've got to think about why somebody's going to read this article and what's going to make them come back and engage with you about it on social media. So blog articles about what you've been doing, where you've been, how it went. You could do a series or a one-off how-to, and that could be how to anything, how to tie a clove hitch, or, you know, how to set the map. Could be anything, or could be a really long, complicated how to prepare for your assessment, that sort of thing. You could do an interview with somebody. So you could interview some of your members of staff maybe, or you could interview somebody that recently came on a course. If you know anybody that's sort of in the public, you know, sort of is famous in some way, then you could interview them. But it has to be somebody kind of vaguely linked to you and what you're doing. Otherwise, people that follow you will just think it's totally irrelevant. Like, why are they interviewing that person? You could write some top tips. So top tips for packing your bag, or top tips for, you know, preparing your expedition food, top tips for buying climbing clothing. So I've got kit buying guides actually a little bit further down. That could be another good source of website content. Bit of myth busting. all sorts of, we try to do this every so often because there's all sorts of random myths in the sector about what's required and how things work. So a bit of myth busting is always popular. And then the last one I've written is share yourself. So this is very much up to you. Some people are quite happy to put themselves out there on social media, as it were, to sort of share a bit more openly their thoughts and feelings about certain things. Other people would rather not, and they want to maintain that sort of professional business front. Either way is fine, but sharing a bit about yourself is a thought, is an option. So I've just got a couple of examples here. So Tink Adventures wrote a blog article about her Winter Mountain Leader training, which is an interesting article, interesting blog article, has some good pictures, it's got a lot of her thoughts in it, the final line that you can just see there says, "Out of my depth doesn't begin to describe how I felt." So it's quite a personal account, which makes it even more engaging, I think. Another one is from Chris Ensel and his wife Anne. So they have written My Philosophy About Mountain Leader Assessment Courses and other inside info. So it's kind of a bit of a, an insider look into what's important for mountain leader assessment, written from Chris and Anne's perspective. And again, some really nice photos listed throughout it, and some really useful kind of top tips. So if you're one of those people who's, say, really nervous about assessment, reading this is probably going to make you feel a little bit more relaxed about the whole thing, because you know a little bit more about what to expect. So then finally then, well, almost finally, post length and number of hashtags. Definitely refer back to your target audience and thinking about what's going to appeal to them. Are they mostly young, mostly interested in Instagram? They just want to look at your picture and they might want to know where it is, in which case your caption is going to be pretty short and you'd probably stick a load of hashtags on the end of it to try and help loads of other people see it as well. I would definitely say, regardless of the social media platform, avoid waffling. Just say what needs to be said and then stop. That doesn't mean it has to be super short, but I would definitely try to avoid super lengthy waffly posts because people just won't read them. Everybody's attention span on social media, even for people that generally speaking in the world have a good attention span on social media, it disappears. This scrolling habit that we're all in now stops people reading things properly. So say it short. So some of the sort of specifics then, Twitter has a 280 character limit, but the most common tweet length is 33 characters, which is really short. Facebook posts can be really long, but they get cut off after 477 characters. So it turns into, you've probably seen this on Facebook, a sort of see more ... and you have to click that to see the rest of it. So that's something else to be aware of, is if you write a lot, people aren't going to see it unless they actively click a button. So if you are writing a longer post, that's totally fine. Just make sure that the key bits are in the sort of first few lines. Instagram allows up to 30 hashtags, but most posts, especially most of the popular ones, use less. So the idea with using hashtags is to allow other people to find your content. So somebody else might click on a hashtag that you've used, and your post will then appear in the list of posts that use that hashtag. But using loads and loads of them means that probably most of them aren't going to be that relevant. So the next point is that make sure your hashtags are relevant, and then group them together at the end of the caption or the tweet to avoid kind of cluttering up the words that you've already used. But generally speaking, there is no magic answer. There's no kind of magic length and number of hashtags. That I would definitely encourage you to experiment to find out what works best for you, and more importantly, what works best for your followers. If you write really short, witty tweets every couple of days, is that much better than sticking a photo on with just a location? Kind of play around with what you post, what you put out there, and what people interact with. Are you one of those people that likes to ask really controversial questions, in which case they're probably not going to be that long, but they're likely to encourage engagement? So have a little play around to see what works best for you. So finally then, an action plan, so some simple things to do now. So I've given you a couple of options really, depending on where you're at. So the first option is to set yourself a target number of social posts or tweets for this week. So they're not promotional, they're just about you trying to share your brand with the world. So that list of social content ideas that I put down, any of those and plenty of others that exist as well. Set yourself a number to do this week and put them out there. Either schedule them today or make sure that you build build them into your plan for the week. Or the other option is to spend this week or sometime this week planning a social campaign, aiming for a high engagement rate. So what you're looking for is for people to comment, like, or share or react to that your posts, whatever they might be, whether they're pictures or tweets or whatever. What you aim for getting as many people to do that as possible, because if the more people interact with your post, the more Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram will think it's an important post, it's meaningful. This word I keep coming back to, and therefore they're more likely to show it to other people. So it's kind of a snowball effect. Definitely speak to your target audience, and I was thinking when I wrote this of meaning speaking when you're writing, but you could also speak out loud if they're on your courses, but I was thinking about making sure that when you write your posts, they are written to your target audience, and also start paying attention to the reach and engagement each post receives. So have a little look on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram to see when you've posted something. You can have a look at the insights, you can see how many people are liking it, you can see what the reach is. Start to pay a little bit of attention to that and think about, oh, okay, well, that one did really well, that one didn't get any retweets, or that one only got 5 likes and that one got 40. You know, have a little look at how that works. And maybe now we've been through some of this, if you've already posted a fair bit on social media, have a little look back through your history to see which things did really well. The main thing, I guess, to be aware of with the algorithm for all of these channels, Facebook and Instagram specifically, is that organic reach is getting harder and harder to come by because of what I explained earlier, that Facebook and Instagram are all about families and friends. So it is harder for businesses to get there, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. You can still have a high organic reach, but it may not be as high as it once was. And also you need to think a bit more carefully these days about what you're putting out there, because in simple terms, there's more content on the platform, so they're having to be tighter about what they show to who. So that's the end of that for today. So the next social media webinar is next Monday, the 19th of August at 2:30 again, and it's going to be about the marketing or sales funnel. So how you kind of draw people in, nurture them, and then ultimately sell them something, which is challenging using social media and the world of GDPR that we live in the UK. So yeah, that's what next week's going to be. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to pipe up and ask something or type something in the chat box. I'll stick around for at least another 5 minutes or so. If not, thanks very much for listening, and I will see you next week.